Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Today in L.A. I'm Forrest Lee. This is Bill Rice, and on the phone we have Mike Amos. I'm sporting my new cowboy hat. I was presented 2 hats in church yesterday by Larry Snyder. He's the first cousin of Kara Carter Hussey, and she's back home from Texas for a few weeks. And they gave me a tube of sunscreen for my head, and gave me 2 hats. This is my styling hat, and I'm looking for a longhorn. I want to take some pictures beside a longhorn, him in a fence, and me outside the fence. But anyway, welcome to Today in L.A. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. How you doing? I stepped away from my phone a second. I'm calling from Birmingham this morning. I've got a little doctor's appointment here in Birmingham. So I'm staying the night with my little granddaughter, and I introduced her this last night. Or yesterday, I introduced her to softball. She's never hit a batted ball before, but she has now. And let me tell you something. She has every one like a blue darter. I mean, she starts hitting right off the bat, and it's just a natural, I reckon.
She's a fantastic swimmer, correct?
Yeah, great dancer, and she's a jack of all trades, and she, like I said, started hitting a little Nerf bat, and she's 7 years old, and she was hitting them like she's been hitting them all her life.
Hey, Mike, speak into the phone or get. We're not picking you up real loud.
Okay, I've got it. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's better. So we want everybody to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, I was just talking about my little granddaughter. I introduced her to underhanded pitch softball, and she really hits the ball good. She's 7 years old and can run like a deer. And
you know, my father-in-law, Frankie Fryer, he is a huge softball player, adult softball player, has been all his life. And
I know that, yes.
He had a batting helmet that was too small for him that he gave to my 5-year-old son, Jack. It fits him. But now Jack is learning to race like a daredevil on his training wheel bicycle.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like that bicycle helmet he had, and so now whenever Jack gets on his little bicycle, we put that softball batting helmet on him.
Right. Talking about adult softball, Herbie Huner and Johnny Dunn used to play a lot of adult
Well, Johnny
softball.
Dunn is Frankie's brother.
Hey, I got some high school
Half-brother.
all-state players that have been mentioned by the Alabama Sports Writers Association of Alabama. In boys, in 5A basketball, Charles Henderson's Akevius Shorts. He's a junior guard, 5'11". He's second team All-State. Tay Pearson from Brantley, 6'2", senior guard. He's third team All-State in 1A. And in the Alabama Independent School Association, first team, Javon Christian. He's a senior, 6-foot guard and forward. Second team was Austin Cross, 6'3", sophomore guard. Sophomore. And in girls, in 5A, Michaela Hobdy, a sophomore guard, 5'5", second team All-State.
Sophomore.
Also, honorable mention, Kristen Jackson. She's a guard from Charles Henderson, 5'6", junior. In 2A, George W. Long, Makina Long, junior guard, 5'8". Luverne, Kaisha Richardson, sophomore guard, 5'5". And in 1A, Gabby Perkins as a senior forward, 6 foot. I think she's from Brantley. And honorable mention in the Alabama Independent School Association, Amity White, sophomore guard, 5'5". So congratulations to our local softball players. We have another caller coming in.
The coach.
Is that
There we go.
Michael Amos in Great Beach, Florida?
Yeah, me and about 5 people from Atlanta and New Orleans and
Dallas pipe down there.
New Orleans.
And he is sick. He is still sick over that game.
Well, I'm not going to be honest. I mean, the more I think about the game, I just kind of feel like UCLA was just a better team. I mean, they were a matchup nightmare for Alabama with those big guards. And, I mean, all their guys were just bigger and stronger. And then down the stretch, I kind of questioned Oates not putting Bruner back in the game to guard that big guy with his 6'10", length and ability to step out and shoot the three. I mean, he just disappeared on Alabama's roster late in the season. I mean,
Who is that?
Gary.
Who is that guy that was so
Gary played good for Alabama, but he's just not near the score. He can't step out and hit a three like Bruner can. So,
And Bruno was the best player on the court, wasn't he?
no, he didn't play.
Where did Bruno come from? Do you know?
He was transferred from Yale at the start of the season. He was Alabama's starter throughout the season until he hurt his knee. He had to get his knee scoped and really never came back as the same player.
Yeah. Who was that was so good for UCLA that really just sort of dominated the game?
Oh, yeah, what was his name? Sanchez? What was his last name? Or Valdez? Something like that?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what.
They couldn't stop him, yeah. He was big, strong, could shoot over people, could drive to the basket.
Yeah, that's right. He just throw the basket. Late in the ball game, I could not understand. Alabama had to shoot the three to have any chance to get back into it, and they were taking it to the bucket, and most of the time getting it slammed back in front of them. But I thought they should have fouled down the stretch more. And I mean, even though UCLA was real good from the foul line, that's the only way you could have won. But they didn't even try.
Well, it looks like to me.
Alabama was bad from the line throughout the game, but I mean, I don't know if they'll ever mention how poor they shot in that Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
That Hinkle Fieldhouse, they were atrocious.
Yeah, that didn't fit their eye, did it? Well, I can't watch them. It's too nerve-wracking for me, but I keep up with it on the internet, and I read the stats. It's obvious why Alabama should have won the game in regulation. Alabama shoots 25 free throws in the game. They hit 11, which is 44% free throw shooting. If they hit 14 or 15 and shoot 52%, they win the ball game in regulation. So they just under the pressure situation, they did not come through.
The last two Jones shot weren't even close. He was not even close on either one of them.
The Elite Eight is going to both the women and men will be playing at the same time in the Elite Eight. The women have 2 games tonight. The men have 2 games tonight, and same as tomorrow night.
How's Texas A&M? Did they keep winning?
They got beat.
It's
Yeah,
tonight.
I felt like Nick Cronin, though, outcoached Oates last night. I mean, did you see him after every timeout, the plays he would draw up? I mean, every single time he drew up a play after a timeout, they scored. And Oates didn't even call timeout. He never calls timeout throughout the game. He just lets them go, which I think in certain situations maybe you do call a timeout. But Alabama got 2 real bad calls late in the game. The ball that went between Petty's legs was very questionable if it hit his shorts. But the big thing with that play was it was a kick ball. So usually a kick ball restarts the shot
kick
clock.
ball goes to the other thing.
That's what I don't understand why they were not judging that. That was obviously a kick ball between the legs. And then a horrible no call with seconds left where the point guard, Jones for UCLA is driving and dishes it the last second underneath the rim. The obvious charge that Herb Jones took that the refs just totally missed. And then the guy, dunks it in. But that was another horrible call in the game. But Alabama had plenty of chances, and after Reese made a miracle three-pointer, I thought for sure in overtime the momentum would have been all on Alabama. But UCLA, a quote from Nate Oates after the game is, UCLA just punched us in the mouth in overtime, and that's exactly what happened.
They hit some threes that were just came in clutch time.
Well, I mean, they just took it to them.
Here's what I did. I watch by checking the internet every now and then, and I see Alabama's getting blown out in the first half, and I say, oh, good. And then, but they showed some pride, and they must have stormed back to start the second half, and then it seemed to be a close game all through the second half. And Alabama had countless chances to win the game in the final minutes. They just could not. In these games, it comes down to who hits the free throws, and Alabama could not hit the free throws. So
I think UCLA was just a tougher team, but that's what I was shocked. I figured Alabama athletically would be able to guard them, wear them down. At the end of the game, I felt like UCLA was the team that was the stronger team and had more energy. Yeah. And, they played an extra game more than Alabama. That's now 4 games they won in the tournament, including the play-in game against Michigan State. Yeah. The Pac-12 has been phenomenal. But what I think you see now, there's only one SEC team left in Arkansas, and they barely beat Oral Roberts. I think that was a very down SEC season, the way it looks to me, the way they've done in the tournament.
Yeah, the Pac-10 has Oregon State left. They play Houston tonight. USC plays Gonzaga Tuesday night. UCLA plays Michigan Tuesday night. The other game, today, Houston versus Oregon State.
Another Pac-12 team.
Baylor versus Arkansas tonight. And then in women, Baylor plays UConn tonight. Indiana versus Arizona. And the women, Texas versus South Carolina. Louisville versus Stanford. So there's 2 number 1 seeds left in women's basketball. And there's 1, 2, 3 in men's basketball. There's 3 number 1 seeds left.
The SEC was so-so. The ACC and Big Ten were the huge disappointments, and the Pac-12 has been the class of the tournament.
I mean, Alabama made the Sweet 16, and I'm happy with that. But after watching the game last night, I realized they easily could have made the Elite Eight. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Wimp Sanderson days where we went to six Sweet 16s and just never could get over the hump. I don't know if Oates' career will be like that. I mean, Alabama's going to lose Jones and Reese, and they're going to lose Teddy, and then probably going to lose Quinterly probably through the draft. I would imagine he'll go because they're bringing in the 5-star point guard J.D. Davidson out of Calhoun. Quinterly is really the reason they won as many games as they did down the stretch, though. He was phenomenal. Shackelford just disappeared in a lot of games. He only scored 4 last night.
Quinterly might come back, and then I don't know. If I was Reese, I would come back. He was playing well at the end of the year. He's not going to make it in the NBA, so he can play one more year at college. So, but like I told your dad, Michael, you made the point. What made this a great season and a changing season for the whole program was the fact that Alabama won the regular season SEC and the tournament, which they hadn't done in forever. Making it to the Sweet 16 was pretty good, but they cannot take away those banners for those SEC championships. The odds that Alabama was going to win a national championship were very, very long. So it was at least they got the 2 they could control and made a fair, respectable showing in the tournament.
And Baylor is
after watching Michigan beat Florida State yesterday, and they just blew out Florida State, a very athletic Florida State team, I was like, man, Alabama's not going to beat Michigan. So I knew that was going to be probably their last chance to win was last night.
Baylor's the only team that has a chance to win both of them.
Florida State was a terrible shooting team. A terrible shooting team. And, they played
that was everybody liked it.
Yeah, but, boy, I tell you what, Michigan was good. I tell you, if Michigan's going to be in the Final Four.
Did you hear about Troy baseball yesterday, Dad?
No, what happened?
So Troy is up 11-1 in the 5th inning. Next thing you know, it's 11-10. And there was a 2.5-hour rain delay before. So Troy scores, I think, 4 more runs or 3 more runs the next inning and goes up 14-10. And Central Florida scores 2 more runs, but the coaches agreed to a time limit when the game would be over, and that would be 5:30. And Troy's relief pitcher Oates came in and struck out a guy in the 8th inning, and they called it after 8 innings because of 5:30. It was 5:30, and the game was officially over.
Yeah.
And Troy won the game.
So Troy won the game, 14-12. They're up 11-1, and give up 9 runs in the 5th inning.
Yeah. Troy baseball.
Yeah, I would have been there if I had this doctor's appointment, and gosh, offensively, that was something against a good team from Central Florida.
They're 13. Troy is 13-10 overall, 2-1 in the conference. They play at South Alabama this Thursday at 6:30, Friday,
Yeah.
and Saturday, and then
Okay.
they'll play Samford next Tuesday, I believe. Is that in
Well, how
Troy?
many games did they play against Central Florida? Total?
3. They finished 2-1. They won the series.
Oh, so that was our first conference games.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
they're not in the conference.
No,
No.
no,
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know.
We
about that.
lost 6-3 Friday. Then we bounced back. Pitchers duel 2-1 Saturday, and then 14-12
Yeah, I saw that
yesterday.
game.
Well, beating two
Yep.
2 out of 3 against Central Florida, that's a big deal, isn't it?
No, that
Think
Central
so.
Florida's not any good. They're 10-13.
And the softball
Not
team
good.
did not go to
Those two
Tennessee.
They've been playing though, you know.
The softball team did not go to Tennessee. I saw Taylor Smart in Publix last night. But the girls are 22-6 overall, 6-0 in the conference. They'll play
So they didn't,
UAB.
They got rained out of that softball tournament.
Yeah,
Yes.
they canceled the whole tournament.
Yeah, they
all
didn't even
4
go up
games,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably rightfully. Aren't they haven't been? It's flooding up there in Tennessee, I think.
They play UAB at 6 o'clock in Birmingham on Wednesday night, and then they'll host Georgia Southern Friday at 5 and a doubleheader on Saturday. So they'll be off for
Yeah,
Easter.
okay.
And but you know, the 10th of April, the 9th and 10th and 11th of April is Trojan weekend. In softball, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns will be playing Troy that weekend. And the men will be playing Texas State that weekend in baseball. And it's spring football
T-Day game,
T-Day game, I guess at around 1 o'clock.
and that's
And
used
you
to.
can attend just about every game on Saturday. They staggered the schedule,
You
so
can move
you can
around
go to
and go. All of them
3
cool.
venues. Softball,
And they used to
baseball.
have the Hall of Fame induction that weekend, didn't they?
Is that the induction weekend, Mike?
No, they pushed it back to
it
September.
back.
But I think it used to be that.
So they'll do 2 classes at one time,
Yeah.
right? They got to do Max and all
Max
that.
Howell in there and Colin McCrary. So that'll be fun. Today is the first day back to school for students in Troy City schools and at Pike Liberal Arts. So be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, kids. I always tell my kids, you've done the hard part, you've got up. Now go to school and just pay attention and try to learn something now that you've done the hard part.
Did mention the great Howard Snellenberger passed away over the weekend at 87. He was a well-known coach, of course, at Miami. Coached with Bear Bryant. Of course, he coached at Louisville. Coached at Florida Atlantic and broke Troy's heart that one time, didn't he, Doug?
Yep. What did he do? Is that a playoff game or kept us out of the playoffs or the conference championship?
Kept Troy out of winning the championship in the Sun Belt.
It was a Sun Belt.
Brooks' Troy team in Troy, and then Troy finished the season 8-4, and for some reason didn't get to go to a bowl game, and Florida Atlantic went to the New Orleans Bowl instead of Troy.
What's the story on him
I
recruiting?
remember that. And that was a huge upset. That had to be a big smile in Snellenberger's face to have beaten Larry Blakeney was such a good team.
Well, he played for Bryant at Kentucky. Then he coached on 3 national championship teams while at Alabama. And
Coach,
he was
my dad.
instrumental
Yeah.
in recruiting Joe Namath and Kenny Stabler.
Yeah, I wrote and made a post about that on Facebook. Here's the rest of the story and how Joe Namath came to Alabama. And Howard Snellenberger had a big part to do with it. But there's a Troy connection on how Joe Namath came to Alabama that I'm getting ready to tell you. What happened is Namath was going to Maryland, and they had tougher academic standards, and Maryland and Namath did not qualify academically at Maryland. He barely missed it. So a coach at Maryland calls his friend Charlie Bradshaw, who later coached at Troy, and he says, Coach Bradshaw, Namath, this great player we've signed, he can't play. And of course the Maryland coach, he did this because he didn't want to have to
Play him.
play against Joe Namath in his league. And he told Coach Bradshaw, this guy is going to be something. If y'all can get him, get him. Trust me. Alabama hadn't recruited. Alabama didn't know anything about Joe Namath. Well, Coach Bradshaw, who was also an assistant at Alabama, took that intelligence immediately to Coach Bryant, told him everything he'd learned, and then Coach Bradshaw dispatched Howard Snellenberger up to Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, and the quote was, I've read it in the book, "Go get Namath." And Howard Snellenberger pretty much lived at the Namath house for a couple of days, and he brought Joe Namath back.
All the way from Beaver Falls.
Right before the start of the 1961 season. And Dad was a senior on that team. Freshmen couldn't play, but Dad got to practice with Joe Namath and see him every day in practice for 1 year. And they said there was no doubt that he was going to be a great one. But without Coach Bradshaw, who's the father of my great friend, the late great Charles Bradshaw, Joe Namath would not have ended up at Alabama and become a legend at Alabama.
And he was a coach on the Dolphins' a perfect season in 1972. Schellenberger was. He coached at Kentucky.
Yeah, it says Schellenberger was essentially Bryant's offensive coordinator when the Crimson Tide won national titles in 61, 64, and 65, with Schellenberger running the offense.
Yeah, that's true. And then I tallied it up when I was doing my research. In 62, the year after Alabama won that national championship team, Alabama went 10-1. They lost one game in the middle of the season, must have been an upset, to Georgia Tech by 1 point. You take away that game, and I guarantee you Alabama wins another national championship.
Which one was the perfect season?
This story right here says it was Schellenberger who flew to Pennsylvania to escort the much sought-after Namath to Tuscaloosa, writing bad checks to cover travel expenses after he was forced to stay several days longer than he had originally planned.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Here's a trivia.
Had to write bad checks just to stay up there.
Trivia question: what TV series did he play in 1970?
Snellenberger.
Snellenberger. What TV series?
Kojak.
1970. He played as a referee in a football game on the set of MASH.
Oh, I'll be darned.
You remember when they had he was a referee in that TV series. I need to find the replay.
Well, I'll tell you who were some of he coached at Alabama in a great run, a run that equals any that Saban's had, from 61 through 66. And he also coached with Charlie Bradshaw and Beebe Stallings, so that was a pretty impressive staff. There were some other people that later became head coaches that were on that staff. So Coach Bryant could pick his assistants too.
Here's his coaching stints: Kentucky, Alabama, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Dolphins again, Miami. Then he brought Louisville back to prominence. Then he coached a short time at Oklahoma. Then he brought Florida Atlantic. They brought. He's really credited.
Well, yeah.
Reviving Louisville, Florida Atlantic, and Miami. They won a national championship at Miami that started their streak.
Miami was awful before he came and won a national championship that shocked Nebraska, I think, in a bowl game. And he said in one of these stories that the worst mistake he ever made, the year after he won the national championship in '83 at Miami, then he went to take a head coaching job in the USFL, and that job never materialized. So all these coaches and teams at Miami that went on to win countless national championships, he really could have been the coach.
He built the blocks.
Well, he could have been there, and he would.
Yeah, his overall record wasn't great at all. It's 158, 151, and 3.
Yeah.
But he would have won if he stayed for 15, 20 more years at Miami. No telling how many national championships he would have won. He might be ahead of Saban and Bryant if he'd stayed there.
Yeah. He was born in St. Minrad, Indiana. I think the parents were of German descent. I believe is correct. But did he almost land the Alabama job, or was a lot of rumors for him coming to Alabama, or did I dream that years ago?
No, I'm sure his name was in the mix a few times.
Yeah,
probably back in the Perkins, Stallings days, Curry days.
Yeah.
You're right. After he messed up and resigned at Miami, which he admitted he messed up doing that, he was still a young coach, and I would have thought that his name could have come up when they hired certainly Curry or Stallings, but he might have had jobs. He also coached at Oklahoma, which for some reason was a disaster.
But 5-5-1, and that was his only season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Oklahoma, and it wasn't a great job to get.
I know it. Bud Wilson had been there, you know.
Oh, well, Switzer had been there.
Yeah.
But I think by the time he went, Oklahoma was in a mess too. It just shows y'all the point I make all the time is that these programs that are riding high and doing great, they can hit some severe turbulence. And you look up one day in that period that you've been in the wilderness is 20 years. Look at Nebraska and Penn State and Tennessee.
Southern Cal.
Southern Cal went through it. Every program goes through it.
Yeah.
Well,
It's going to say goodbye to
there's still some more.
I mean, you got to think of all the Bryant coaching tree. He's got to be probably the most successful, I would think.
Well, he won one national championship. Stallings won
I mean,
one.
Dye never won a national championship. Came close several times. Stallings won one in Alabama. Stallings coached most of the time in the pros. I'm trying to think of some other coaches.
Well, Jackie Sherrill, Danny Ford won a national.
Yeah, Jackie Sherrill was good. Danny Ford was good.
There's a bunch of them.
I tell you what, Bruce Arians just won a Super Bowl at Tampa.
Yeah, he counts. You're right. It's amazing to see all the disciples of Coach Bryant. They were either a player or coach for him, and most of them
David Cutcliffe
did very well.
Charlie McClendon.
Claiborne coached in Kentucky for several years.
Yeah, Jerry Claiborne, Charles McClendon,
Charlie Mack at LSU. List goes on and on.
Mike Riley, Sylvester
Joey
Cruz.
Jones with South Alabama built that program. Jones was the last player that played for Brian that was actively coaching. I don't even know if he's even coaching anymore. He was the special teams coach at Mississippi State, but I don't even know if he's coaching at all right now.
Now you have people like
Jimmy Sharp,
Bud Moore, Richard Williamson, almost became
Charlie Pell.
Charlie Pell, Charlie Bradshaw was the head coach at Kentucky and Troy. But
How long was Bradshaw the head coach of Kentucky?
about 5 years, I think.
Wow, that's a long time. I didn't realize he was there that long.
He made history at Kentucky. He recruited and signed the first African American football players, maybe athletes, that ever played in the SEC. He integrated SEC athletics in the late 60s. Coach Bradshaw did.
I tell you, probably one of the most successful was the guy that went to Tennessee was the head coach. He just couldn't beat Alabama when he was there, but he beat everybody else.
Yeah, Bill Battle.
Bill Battle.
What a class guy that later became the founder of a company that perfected royalties and merchandising, and then he becomes a successful Alabama athletic director.
Yeah. Well, Snellenberger was definitely, he's legendary. If you're reading all the quotes from all these former Miami players, they keep on saying there wouldn't have been the U without Snellenberger. After Snellenberger, I guess it was Jimmy Johnson, wasn't it?
I think it was Michael, and so he would have been the one that brought in. Oh no, they brought him in from Oklahoma State, but he got it going.
Yeah.
All those great coaches had that.
Florida Atlantic is the reason his record's probably so bad. I imagine his record was pretty good before he got to Florida Atlantic, but I would imagine starting a program those first 5 years, you're probably going to average about 8 or 9 losses a year.
That's right. So, but he started the program, and it's still around, so that's historic.
Of course, back to Alabama basketball last night. I was reading a lot of quotes after the game, and a lot of the fans were disappointed. The free throw shooting and talking about how poor Alabama shot. But if you look at the numbers, I mean, I think Alabama was 5 for 24 from 3-point line. I mean, those got to be some of the worst numbers Alabama's had all year from deep.
Yep.
Yeah. On a given day, it would have been a dead even ball game, I would think.
I think on a given day, Alabama wins easily. It's just.
I thought Alabama was going to blow them out in the first quarter when they got up by 8 or 9. I was just like, oh man, they can't keep up with Alabama, but man, they stormed back like it was nothing.
I thought that it would be great if Alabama could beat UCLA in their own sport, because that's UCLA basketball is their sport. Because Alabama kind of owed them because UCLA beat Alabama in our sport, football, 2 years in a row, as we all remember.
I remember that. You're right.
A basketball school whipped up on Alabama, the alleged football school. That was the first loss that sent Mike Dubos's season spiraling into a disaster. And they came back to Tuscaloosa and played, I think, the next year or 2 years later and did the same thing.
Yeah, I watched the match play yesterday. Billy Herschel, the Florida golfer, won the match play, beat Scotty Scheffler, the Texas grad, and I watched a lot of that tournament. Man, this guy's got to play a lot of days, a lot of matches. Of course, the big controversy was Kevin Na beat Dustin Johnson, the number one player in the world, and apparently Johnson missed a simple putt. He's got like 6 inches, so like any golfer, you think that's a gimme. And you just go up there and, your putter and snatch it away because you're mad you missed the putt. Nah, apparently had a fit and told Johnson, you can't do that without me telling you the putt's good. And apparently they got in Johnson's head, and Nah came all the way back and beat him in match play. But kind of a controversial decision. Number one player in the world, and would you concede a 6-inch putt without even him having to tell you that?
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're right.
But technically, I guess Na's right. In match play, your opponent has to tell you first that that's good.
What was the winning purse?
Oh, I'm sure it's like $1.8 million.
When does the Masters start? Isn't it not this Thursday, but the next Thursday?
That's right.
Ooh, that's the one that.
Masters.
I tell you what, the azaleas are in full bloom in Troy, Alabama.
Yeah, I bet they are in Augusta
I
too.
tell you what, they're beautiful.
I
I
wonder
don't know if any town has azaleas like Troy.
Oh,
Beautiful,
Mobile
yeah.
probably got a boatload of them.
they're known for them.
Yeah,
Oh, let's see.
do.
We lost somebody.
Lost Michael. Let me get him back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go to a quick break. We want to thank our sponsors, Hooks Barbecue, Alabama Real Estate Connection, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Starting April 1st, all your local county and school board meetings will be moving to BBTV Channel 17. Catch Pike County Commission, Troy City Council, and school board meetings live on Facebook, YouTube, and BBTV, brought to you by Troy Cable.
Troy Cable Security Wi-Fi doorbell camera allows you to answer the door from your smartphone when you are at home, at work, or on the go. When a visitor presses the button, Troy Cable Security sends a live video feed to your smartphone so you can see, hear, and speak to the person at your door. With the doorbell camera, you can have your porch light turn on automatically when it detects motion at night to create the appearance that someone is at home. You can view video clips so you can always know who stopped by when you are out. Troy Cable Security. You love them, protect them.
A personal touch, a high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big
Brought to you by
part of our
Premier Dodge
identity.
Chrysler Jeep and Ram trucks on the bypass right here in Troy, where there's a sale going on that you can't beat anywhere. And of course, we always talk about you can't beat a Premier deal. Well, let me tell you this: you throw in all these other things that they've got going on, and you really can't beat a Premier deal. Nobody can.
No, you're talking about the stimulus that a lot of Americans have gotten. So it's the perfect time to You know, I've also thought that some of these lease deals, you got to pay some money down to get the lease, and you got some fees involved with it. But that would cover all your lease fees, and then you just got a brand new car you can lease for so many years.
That's right.
I want to mention the Memphis Tigers won the NIT championship yesterday under Penny Hardaway. Memphis beat Mississippi State yesterday, 77-64. So now your NIT tournament's done. Of course, that was the first time they weren't able to play in New York City in 83 years. They had to play a neutral site bubble in Texas. But congratulations to them. Also, we're going to mention that Indiana is going to hire Mike Woodson, one of their former players. He's been an NBA coach 2 or 3 different times and never coached in college, so kind of a strange hire. Indiana's going to hire Mike Woodson to a 6-year deal. He's already 63 years old, so everybody was talking about Brad Stevens, the great Butler coach, who's been the coach of the Celtics, going back to Indiana to turn Indiana's program around, but I guess they didn't get their guy, and now they're going to have Woodson come in.
Well, Woodson played for Indiana, you said?
Yeah. Played for Indiana and then played in the NBA for 11, 12 years.
That's another example of a program that was a blue blood dynasty, or successful every year pretty much for decades, and then you just haven't heard much from them recently.
That's right.
Mike, is the weather good down there today, Michael?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty down here. The sun's already out. It's going to be about 72, sunny. There's a lot of people from Atlanta and Louisiana, Texas. I think this is going to be the busiest week of them all.
This must be the last week in March. Must be the most states have spring break that week. It seems like that's a good week to have spring break.
Well, it's Easter weekend too, so a lot of people are going to be down for Easter.
Yeah, that's right. That has a lot to do with it.
We may be heading to Manchester, Raleigh, Georgia this weekend, leaving probably late Saturday night.
Well, I hope y'all are careful and have fun.
Easter.
We might be going from 109 South Hillcrest Boulevard to, as far as Julia's or Crow's Chicken, something like that. That might be.
Hey, yeah,
so Dad, how did the Troy quarterback look? The transfer, how did he look?
He looked pretty good. He looked pretty good. He's not real tall. He's probably about 6'2", and he's not as tall as Watson is. Of course, Bree is still in the mix, but I would think that it's going to go down between Watson and this kid from transfer from Missouri. I talked to him, Mike, and talked to him about 10 minutes before practice started Saturday, and we talked about and he was talking about how glad he was to be at Troy and how much he liked it so far here, and he has a black pickup truck, and
it's a big old.
I tell you, he handles himself real well. He's already trying to establish a leadership role, patting everybody on the back, all that stuff, and he looks pretty good. In fact, I think it's going to be quite a run for quarterback.
It makes me wonder, can he run? I think a dual threat option would help Troy a lot.
Yeah, he does run pretty well. He runs, and he built strong. He looks strong, and of course, Bree looks pretty good. But he's tall, slender kid, but can throw it. I talked to Bree's daddy at the practice Saturday, and we were talking about what a great game he had against Florida. Arkansas State. And I told him, I said, if he played like he played against Arkansas State, he'd start every ball game at Troy. And he agreed.
Yeah, but then he turned around and played like he did against Georgia Southern and couldn't complete a pass. So it was kind of a strange situation.
Yeah. But
Troy's got such a brutal schedule. I mean, this is by far going to be their toughest schedule since Lindsey's been there. they got to find a way to somehow beat Southern Miss at Southern Miss or Liberty at home. They got to win one of those games.
Yeah.
If they can win both of them, watch out.
Yeah, that's right.
I would say Southern Miss on the road would be the better chance, in my opinion. I just think Liberty is just loaded. You know, they can bring in any player they want to in the country of that school and get them in. And then Malik Willis, I mean, they were a block kick away from 35 yards from going undefeated. I mean, they beat so many big time schools last year. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech.
Yep.
I know, that was really tough.
Yeah.
Of course, they're located in Lynchburg, Virginia. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Lynchburg.
That's when they made that famous Lynchburg lemonade. You ever enjoyed one of those?
So you have a famous whiskey distillery in the same town as a famous Baptist college. Go figure.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. But Troy, of course, has got everybody back except Khalil McLean. He's the only guy that's trying to even go to the pros. So it's going to be a very familiar roster. I just hope a few of these guys they can bring in, junior college and transfers and the big defense tackle out of Florida State, Chapman, 6'3", 285, 290. He's got to help.
Oh, yeah, and also the offensive line looked real good. I mean, looked big and strong. Looked
good.
Big and strong. At least the five I saw across that came in and out of it with the first unit, and the offensive line looked real good.
That would make a huge difference if we could get the offensive line where they could run block a little bit, and we got all these running backs that are really good, so you could have a running game where you wouldn't be so predictable on offense. So that I think Coach Forrest Lee over here pointed that out many times.
Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
I look hard doing that baseball tournament for us.
Well, we know of one game. They beat Pace by 1. That's the only game that I have the results for. And they play tomorrow. Pike Liberal Arts does. They play tomorrow at Success in Montgomery. And the softball team will host Morgan tomorrow, Pike Liberal Arts softball.
So as a private school, you can play a public school out of Florida, but you can't play a public school in Alabama, I guess?
Correct.
Is that the way that works?
Correct. That is correct.
Interesting.
And Charles Simpson opens up their region schedule at home versus Greenville. I believe that will be this Thursday. And then the softball team will be at Carroll tomorrow around 5 o'clock is what I have. But it's starting to get crunch time in baseball and softball and high school athletics here.
I wonder if they're going to have the proms this year.
Yes, I saw where Charles Henderson's having one. I don't know what the restrictions will be, but I know they
Go
have
ahead
one
and
up
have
there.
it.
But how you going to dance, though? You going to dance like hands-free?
Well, I think how most of they show up, the promenade, introducing Forrest and Lee and Jody Fowler. They do that, and they may go to the prom for 10 minutes.
Oh.
They'll go somewhere and change clothes and whatever. You know, they don't prom like we used to prom.
That's what we used to do. We would go and have that one dance, and then somebody'd have a party out in the country down a dirt road about 20 miles away.
We went to the prom back in my day. We actually listened to the band. Sometimes it all depended on who hired the band. If you got a good band, it was probably a good prom.
We didn't have a band. We had a turntable in the cafeteria.
The people that sponsored it, said, when these kids leave the building and then go down that dirt road to a party, they wanted to say, where'd all the kids go? What are we going to do?
That's where you need the chaperones.
Well, it's, I hope it's still. I hope it's still a big deal, and I hope they could. I do not think I would have any worries about kids dancing together at the prom.
They've already had Triple T this year. I saw that. I saw tons of pictures of that.
I saw that they in Texas. Remember, Texas governor did away with the mask mandate, and all the business protocols and lockdowns and opened them back up. And President Biden said, "You are a Neanderthal. This is going to end in a disaster." It's now been
Tell us how the open looks right.
Well, it's in Texas. They've had 17 days where the cases, hospitalizations, and deaths have continued to plunge after the governor got rid of all the restrictions. So all the nightmare scenarios that the experts predicted, the exact opposite happened, which is usually the case.
And I was told yesterday by a source who was told by a source there are no COVID patients in Troy, in the hospital.
What?
None.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, Pike County's cases
that's not verified, but that's what I was told.
But you
by
watch,
someone.
so they're coming off of vacation or spring break, and I bet you're going to see a huge increase, wouldn't you think?
Well, that's what they'll say, but watch and see. 17 days later, it will not happen. I mean, all these spring breakers in Florida, that's the predictions, that it'll be rampant new surge in new cases. But you got to look in the future, 5, 10, 15 days. Didn't happen. Remember when Alabama students came back to school and they said, "Oh, it's going to be a nightmare. The sky's going to fall," and then you looked at the hospitalizations at Druid City Hospital 2 and 3 weeks in the future, and they'd gone down majorly.
Well, Jody and I are having our shot tomorrow. We're getting the Johnson & Johnson shot.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
we have it scheduled tomorrow, and
You can go to Bird Drugs, and Bird Drugs has got it. Schedule you an appointment.
Yeah, well, the good thing is they're opening up to everybody in the country here in Florida on April the 5th. Everybody can get the vaccine.
Well, I will say, Mike, you asked for a report.
There's no 40 or 50 or 60. I mean, everybody now can do it.
The one place that seems to be having big spikes is Brazil.
Yeah.
So in Brazil,
You reckon why that's the fact?
I don't know. That's the question I always ask is why.
Well, Brazil is a lot of poor parts of Brazil. I think third world countries could get hard. A lot of people live together.
I think so. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I'm surprised India's numbers were never. I figured they would lead everybody.
I know it. Yeah, and they're not that bad, really, on a per capita basis. One story I've read said that they.
My question is, if they claim the coronavirus is going to be around until 2023, does that mean that we're going to have to, wear masks until 2023 in certain places?
That's what some officials will lobby for. Yeah. Matt,
I still think you need to. I think you need to use your mask in public places.
I mean, as something to, I guess, prevent. Even though you've had the vaccine, you feel like that it's the right thing to do. I mean, if you've had both shots.
Yeah, I think like when you go to the post office, the drugstore, the grocery store, you need to wear your mask. I really believe.
But they say what, right? You can still carry it and be asymptomatic, even though you're not going to be deathly ill, but you can still be asymptomatic with both vaccines.
That's the $1 million question, as far as I'm concerned, is how infectious are asymptomatic people really? You hear both, Michael. You hear some that, oh yes, you can definitely get it from people who have no symptoms, and then other people say, well, it's incredibly unlikely that somebody with no symptoms is going to pass on this virus to somebody else. So I say unknown. It seems to me, my logic is if you're going to be much more likely to pass it on, infect other people if you have obvious symptoms. You're coughing and fever and all that. There's lots of anecdotes you could give of people that. Well, you look at football teams, and they tested 3 or 4 times a week, and I think most of the players who tested positive were really asymptomatic. And although there were games canceled because of these protocols, it just seems to me that a tiny percentage of these people even became sick. So I question all of these protocols, these 14 days of people that aren't even sick having to sit out and can't even practice. I don't think any of that was even necessary.
And the vaccines, you got to take them year after year after year.
Yeah, that's going to be the case. You're going to have to take it.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be just like a flu shot.
It's going to be year after year. It'll end up being mandatory for a lot of the military. Is going to make it mandatory. I'm sure Rutgers has already made it mandatory, so colleges will probably end up making it mandatory, which is also bizarre to me because in all of America, with 20 million college students, you know how many college students have died of COVID in the last year? Out of 20 million? 4. So that's your odds of dying from COVID if you're a college student are exactly 1 in 5 million. The odds of you being struck by lightning, or me or you or Forrest being struck by lightning this year, I've looked it up, are 1 in 700,000. So, you know, you're making the vaccine mandatory to save lives of college students who have zero risk of dying from COVID. Now
Boy, huge upset in AA football yesterday. Jacksonville State 7-1 playing Austin Peay. It was 2-5, and they play on Sundays. And Austin Peay went to Jacksonville State and beat Jacksonville State yesterday 13-10. So now Austin Peay is 3-5 on the season. Jacksonville State is 7-2 in 1AA football.
Oh man, then that killed them. You know what they were saying at the end of the game, don't you? Let's go Peay. Let's go Peay.
Yep, they
You
were.
know, Jacksonville State's only loss was to Florida State, a team that they were actually up 14-0 on.
Hey, what were the Austin Peay fans saying about Jacksonville State? We can't say.
What slogan?
Let's go Peay, or what?
No, I can't.
They used to say some real bad stuff. They used to say some real bad stuff about Troy back in the day.
I'm not gonna say it on the air. It's a double entendre, I think is what they call it.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that they're playing football on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah.
I wonder how many people were at the game.
I guess they weren't selling beer, or maybe they were.
I wonder really how many people were at the game. That was
And next year they
a
open
real
up.
interesting story about Austin Peay. So Austin Peay starts the season, and they have an interim coach that because of Husbeth, Mark Husbeth, lost his job technically or resigned because he wanted to be with his family. So you don't really know what happened, but anyway, so he left the program. So Austin Peay plays in the kickoff championship against Central Arkansas, the game Johnny Williams put on. So that was the first football game, after COVID started. It was like a real big deal, a lot of media coverage. So in the middle of the season, the Southern Miss coach, who's been there for several years, resigns, and maybe that's for the first or second game. So they promoted an offensive coordinator to take his spot at Southern Miss. And in the middle of the season, Southern Miss's program so bad, he takes the Austin Peay job. So this guy was the interim coach at Southern Miss, and then now is coaching Austin Peay in the spring. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And Jacksonville State opens up the season in the fall in Montgomery against UAB.
Oh.
And then they travel to Florida State. So
Jacksonville State and UAB in
Montgomery.
Cool. Yeah, I wonder if Johnny put that game together.
Johnny Williams' game, yeah.
That's right.
We'll talk to Johnny maybe as early as next week about all this.
That's on a Wednesday, September the 1st on ESPN on a Wednesday.
Man,
Exposure.
yeah, I can't imagine how big that crowd's going to be in the new stadium in Birmingham when UAB kicks off.
Well, this is going to be in Montgomery, but who do they open up with at when do they open up in Birmingham?
Probably the next week.
I want to say the next week or later in September.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure.
bet there'll be 55,000 people there.
Well, it only seats 40, doesn't it?
It holds right around 50.
Well, here's UAB opens up at with Jack State in Montgomery. Then they travel to Georgia. Then they'll be at North Texas, at Tulane. They open up at home Saturday, October the 2nd, versus
all the way till October.
versus Liberty.
Oh, that would be a good game.
That stadium
It's,
will
It'll be full.
protected life stadium.
yeah.
Now I know that first game will be full. Let's see what their
Florida Atlantic is
fourth or
next.
fifth game at that stadium is going to
Yeah.
be.
Then they play Florida Atlantic at home, travel to Southern Miss, Rice at home, Louisiana Tech at home, Marshall away, University of Texas San Antone at home. No, they're at Texas San Antone. Their last game at home is University of Texas El Paso, Saturday, November the 27th. But they
You got to think Legion Fields can get the wrecking ball.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but now you don't think they'll use it for recreation
Or
no,
high
you're
school
right,
ball,
that's just
maybe?
way
High
too
school,
big.
maybe.
That place is just too big. It's even too big for high school, really.
Yeah, it is really way too big.
I mean, that neighborhood, man, I can't imagine when that stadium's just totally gone.
Yeah. You know, I want to tell you guys something that I did this weekend. There's a great ball player that came through Troy High School and Troy State Teachers College named Lamar Doc Bowden. All right, Doc Bowden played ball, and then he transferred from Troy to play for Georgia, and he finished his career at Georgia. Then went into professional baseball. He made it all the way up to AAA. And back in those days, when there was not but say 14 and 16 major league teams, it was a lot harder to make it to the major leagues because we weren't as many slots available. So he did make it to AAA, and then after that, he moved out to California, where he raised his family out in Southern California, and played golf a lot, and did well with his career and so forth. And when he died at 91, he wanted to have his body moved back to Troy, Alabama, to be with his wife and his. He had his wife and his, and of course they had his body moved back to Troy, and his to be next to his father, who was a doctor in Troy for something like 40 years, and that's where he was buried. So that's where Doc Bowden wanted to be buried. So after waiting 2 or 3 months to do it, the family moved the body back to Troy, and at Green Hills, and what a beautiful setting it was at Green Hills, and they came back and had a funeral, and they wanted somebody to look up and do sort of a eulogy for on his behalf. So I met with the the family who had came in here from Idaho, from Los Angeles, California, from Southern California, from let's see, Pensacola, Florida, Chicago, Illinois. They came in from everywhere to be at that funeral, and I got to meet with them, and they were sitting in the hotel at the Hampton.
There's Green Hills ad right there.
Yeah. But on Friday afternoon, they were sitting in there as a group, and here comes Mike Amos walking in there, and walks up to that group of about 10, 15 people, and I said, "This is Doc Bowden Day in Troy, Alabama." and I sat down with them and had pictures of Doc Bowden that I'd had run off at the up store, and just had all kinds of stuff that this total stranger came in off the street, and
so I mean, had you planned on doing this eulogy, or this just came out of the blue?
No, I was asked to do it, but by Benny Pinkard at the in the butt. He grew up, and his father built my home on Orion Street. His father was a doctor and built this nice home on Orion Street, and that's where Doc Bowden lived most all his childhood, on Orion Street in this house that I was raised in.
Said he was born in.
He lived there for 20 years.
How is it nice? It wasn't brick or a block, was it?
What now?
Don't you say something's nice if you have a brick or a block house? What was that house?
Oh yeah. And they had brick columns. But, at one time that house was a new house, and they built it. It was a nice house, and I think he lived there 20 years before he moved off after college. And then
that really is common for somebody. That's common for somebody to come out of town, out in the middle of nowhere, and then somebody from Troy has to give a eulogy for that person.
I didn't have to. They just thought it would be neat if somebody from Troy was represented, and I told the story at the hotel. We had a eulogy, and then at the funeral site. I spoke at the funeral site, and the First Baptist Church preacher was there too, and he was great. I'm telling you, First Baptist Church had hit a home run when they got this guy, and he is really, really super.
He passed away in August, and said he was born in Troy, former resident of Dothan, Alabama, and Yorba Linda, California, and he lived most recently with his son in Boise, Idaho. But he passed away in August.
Wow, what a crazy story!
And he's 91 years old, so he would have. He graduated from Troy High School and would have.
Yeah, that's right. And he grew up in the same house that another star athlete, Mike Amos, grew up in,
and he played sports He played sports at Troy and then transferred to Georgia.
He was married to Nona Elizabeth Betty Wright of Dothan for over 60 years, and he was a corrosion control engineer most of his life.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad to learn this about Doc Bowden.
And he played a lot of golf and everything, but he loved Troy. And they said when Doc Bowden talked about anything growing up, it was always about Troy and living in the house over on Orion Street where Dr. Bowden lived.
Was there any relationship to Lawrence Bowden? He's about that age.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask him.
Hey, well, let's see and put one of y'all on hold. We'll see what happens.
He lost it. You got to answer it with so many seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break. We want to thank our sponsors, Troy Bank and Trust of Troy, Alabama, and other locations. They have 14 locations throughout this part of the country, and also Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Troy. We'll be back in just a minute.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Troy Cable Security Wi-Fi doorbell camera allows you to answer the door from your smartphone when you are at home, at work, or on the go. When a visitor presses the button, Troy Cable Security sends a live video feed to your smartphone so you can see, hear, and speak to the person at your door. With the doorbell camera, you can have your porch light turn on automatically when it detects motion at night to create the appearance that someone is at home. You can view video clips so you can always know who stopped by when you are out. Troy Cable Security. You love them, protect them.
A personal touch, a high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big part of our identity.
Hi, Sandy. I'm right here. Come on in. Miss Mary. I'm right here.
I'm right here.
Since 1969, we've been right here because at Troy Regional Medical Center, we take these words to heart.
I'm right here.
Thank you. Remarkable people, remarkable care.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Today in LA. I'm Forrest, and this is Bill. On the phone, we have Mike calling in from Birmingham, and his son Michael calling in from Grayton Beach. We got about 10 minutes left on the show.
And, of course, we appreciate Wiley Sanders Truck Lines being a part of our show and looking for a career, and I mean a outstanding career. Call the folks at Wiley Sanders Truck Lines today.
Yeah, the best thing about that is you can be team drivers. So, you know, your husband and your wife, you know, y'all can want to go see the country. Y'all can just drive the Sanders truck and, you know, haul up to Oregon and Washington State and California and back.
I wonder how many Sanders trucks there are in total. Boy,
Somebody told me it was over 1,000.
Oh my gosh!
Used to be 740.
Yeah, but let me tell you this. Let me tell you what has opened the door for truck drivers around the country. Is these big units now have automatic transmission.
That's what I would
have
need.
Automatic transmission, and you don't have to worry about the clutch and those hilly terrains, you know.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
Yeah,
I would think.
that is a game changer. You're right.
But
you
still,
gotta back it, though.
yeah, man, being able to maneuver it and turn it.
Back it's kind of tough.
Hey, you get a guy there. Go ahead.
I don't know how these drivers can back them into these loading docks in these places they do, but they can.
They say the bigger the trailer is,
went
it is.
to Biloxi
Easier.
This weekend for the first time since COVID had started. He said it was miserable. He said that you could only have 3 people at a table. Everybody is wearing a mask. Your blackjack dealers are wearing masks. And then he liked to play poker in the poker room. And he said they had like shields up in between each player. He said there's no entertainment. He said the sports books have televisions on, but you had to wear a mask throughout the time you're even at your table. So like in between sipping on your drink, you had to just pull your mask down to have your cocktail. He had like the experience there was just no fun, no entertainment. The pools aren't open. You can't hear bands even just like around the casinos. I mean, he said it was just not even anywhere close to being like it used to be.
Well, maybe that's will soon be back in a couple weeks or months, maybe. Governor Ivey's mask mandate and restrictions are set to expire on April 9th. So that's almost here.
Is that Friday week or something?
Yeah, that'll be about the last. I bet that'll be the Monday after the Masters. You know, the Masters will probably finish on the April 8th. And
have y'all had an Easter egg hunt yet?
yeah, Mr. Beard had the grounds in the house for the First Methodist Church Easter egg hunt, which was held Saturday morning. So thank you very much, Mr. Beard. A lot of kids and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I need to go out there. I need to go out there today and look for some stray eggs. I mentioned that some of them didn't get picked up.
Yep.
Hey, Troy Parks and Recs had a indoor Easter egg underwater swim where they had some floating on top, but they had the first ever Easter egg dive. And they were limited number of kids that could be in the pool. That's kind of a neat concept.
Yeah, that's a neat. They also have the ice water plunge, don't they, out there?
That's right, polar bear plunge.
You've done that, haven't you?
How about it's going to be 34 degrees in Troy this week?
Oh, me. Cold weather again. Oh, me.
Maybe the last nap.
Yeah, I've read that there's
Troy University football had one more scrimmage before their T-Day game, and it was a very good scrimmage Saturday, and I think the coach has to feel pretty good about his team right now, but with a lot of players coming back.
How about this at Troy on Wednesday? The high's going to be 82 Wednesday, and then the low's going to be 38.
Wow, what a...
And that you know what? That almost has to be a record.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Mike.
The difference. Somebody, what are you weather experts do some research on that.
And find what the record is for one day's high and one day's low.
They say the high is going to be 57 and the low is going to be 34.
Oh, man.
But you talk about, what did you say, 82 to 38?
39.
So let's do it 40. That's 43 degree temperature variance in
I hope
one
it doesn't
day.
mess up the peach trees up there in Chilton County.
Okay, guys. I'm going to bail out, and I'll see you guys on set in the morning bright and early for today in L.A., and I'll see you guys later.
All right. Have a good doctor's appointment.
We got 5 minutes left.
Well, let's see. Let's talk. Who do you pick tonight, Houston or Oregon State?
Houston.
Man, I tell you, Houston is extremely athletic. He can really guard you. They don't have the best shooters in the world, but Oregon State, after watching UCLA last night, I mean, Oregon State's got some really good shooters, and they're big and physical and long. I'm going to go Oregon State.
All right. What about Baylor versus Arkansas? And Baylor is the only team.
I like Baylor.
And Baylor's the only team left with both men and women that can win it all.
Wouldn't that be
That's the only
something if
team
they
left.
won't pull that
Boy,
hat trick?
I mean, I don't know if y'all watched Arkansas and Oral Roberts, but Arkansas was very lucky. I mean, the Oral Roberts guy had a perfect look at a three at the end to win it and missed it.
And in women, you have Baylor, number 2 Baylor versus number 2 UConn. That's tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN.
That might be for the championship right there.
All right. Then you have Indiana versus Arizona tonight in the women's tournament. So
I'll take UConn and Indiana.
And then tomorrow in women's basketball, you got Texas versus South Carolina. South Carolina's number 1 seed, Texas number 6. Then Louisville's the number 2 seed versus number 1 seed Stanford. And then in men tomorrow night, you got Gonzaga versus USC. And I think Southern Cal's got 2 brothers.